many different things, is that sometimes it's a great thing when Arkansas isn't always the first state to step up and take action on something. We've seen at least 14 other states back out of this consortium, and we have the ability to sit back and watch and see what they've done and how things worked in their area. New York State and Kentucky were pilot states in this initiative, and some of the scores that are coming back from the field testing in New York are very discouraging. A 70% failure rate in the math, for example. So when the topic of equity comes up, achievement gap is the first thing that comes to my mind. And I can see how this test is only going to increase the achievement gap for the state of Arkansas, because nobody can pass the math section of this exam due to the different methods that are being used and the technology barriers that are present for so many of the kids that live in our poorer districts. Particularly for the little ones in the primary grades that don't quite have the typing skills to type out open-ended answers to ELA questions. They can click a mouse and they can swipe a screen on a tablet, but to be able to type with two hands and complete sentences in an essay, that's a whole other thing. So there are some barriers here that are going to cause, I think, our cut scores to come back very low in November. And as a parent, that frightens me. As a taxpayer, that frightens me, because I don't want to see the bar being lowered based on results of a test that's never been validated. The second issue that hasn't been discussed today has to do with the data agreement that is in this contract. As a mother, I have very serious concerns about how this arrangement was made and what it sacrifices in the name of saving education. This agreement was signed off on by the then governor and the state board. The parents were not given a say in this. The state legislature was not given a say in this. And there are two clauses in our PARCC contract that are in your policy brief verbatim, if you'd like to read them, that grant not only Pearson, the vendor, but other private entities and the federal government direct access to our student longitudinal data system. This is not to say that the Department of Education will be actively sharing student data. They likely won't even know that it's happening, because it will take place at the consortium level. The wording of this contract says that anybody who can consider themselves defined as an education researcher, which at this point has already been deemed Google, Microsoft, Pearson, Cisco, Intel, and Harvard University, will now have by law access to individually identifiable student information, not aggregate. And they will have access to that database. They don't have to ask the Department of Ed for permission to see that. New York has already seen problems with this in the form of data breaches. People have been able to hack into this information and get it out on the internet, violating people's privacy. And this begs the question, what happens when that data is interpreted in such a way that it limits a student's ability to get into the school that they want to, or to choose the job or the career that they're trying to get? This contract is messy, it's slippery, and we need to get out of it. The vendor Pearson has a track record for amateur mistakes. They paid millions of dollars in settlements because they can't score things properly, they can't send results on time. We even had a lawsuit here in Arkansas for a product that we purchased from Pearson, and we won, and they paid us millions because they didn't score it properly. These guys can't be trusted. The server is TestNav8. It sits on an Amazon server. It's very insecure. It breaks down all the time. That's why students all over the state are coming home telling their parents they couldn't log into this test this week because it's unreliable. There's a lot of other reasons to get out of this contract besides whether or not people think the test is hard. There are privacy violations built into this that parents absolutely will not stand for. We do not consent. The Department of Ed will say that FERPA protects us, but FERPA was relaxed. The Federal Education Right to Privacy Law was relaxed in 2011, and it now states that the education agencies no longer need to notify us or get our permission to either collect or share individually identifiable student data, so that law is useless. I beg of you to please stop this contract. There are at least 6 other tests that we have information on that we can choose from that don't require us to get out of Common Core. We can maintain those standards if that's what the council chooses to do. And we have other testing options that we can go to that do not sacrifice privacy and are cheaper, that don't come with a $280,000 a year membership fee. Thank you for listening. I appreciate a good vote on this bill.
Thank you, Senator Henry.
Questions, sir? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to be clear, because I've asked this question several times, and I keep getting different answers. What you testified here was that
access to your daughter's scores
So let me ask
and
you
her
another
personal
way then.
info.
For whatever reason, I guess you're telling me they may not make that available to the public, but are you telling me somebody in some office at Google will be able to look up the score that my daughter made on a PARCC exam in Arkansas?
As they meet the requirements for educational researcher, which they have already come out and said they do, yes, sir, you are correct.
So, because I'm going to ask the PARCC lady that here in just a moment, the same question, because this is the part that frustrates me the most about this debate is we keep getting told different stories. Because your testimony is that is possible and you're fine with that.
Yes, in fact, Google came out publicly in 2013 about how excited they were that they were going to have access to this data. They were going to do great things with it to improve education across the United States.
The other question I have is, and I've heard a couple different folks testify that part of the problem with PARCC is we have children who don't have appropriate keyboarding skills and technology skills. I guess part of my question to you is, don't you think that that is something that is education, as educators, we have an obligation to identify and correct in today's society? And we need to know those children that don't have those skills, because wouldn't you agree that that's part of our obligation as educators to give them those skills?
I absolutely think that those technological skills are necessary and critical. We need to be able to evaluate for those, but PARCC isn't necessarily going to evaluate their computer skills. It's going to evaluate how they meet certain ELA and math standards, and from where I sit, I don't know that you're going to get an accurate picture of their understanding of the standard if they can't use the technology. Having said that, and I'm going to say something publicly you're all going to get a kick out of because you'll never hear me say much about anything about Common Core that I like, but one of the good things about Common Core is that it does incorporate technology. And there are certainly other ways of identifying that. I don't see how the teacher in the classroom wouldn't be able to tell within a few minutes whether or not the child has an appropriate handle on the technology that's in front of them. I don't think that we need a $280,000 membership contract and a $9 million contract with Pearson to assess whether or not a student can effectively use a keyboard and mouse and so forth. They're important.